Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to round 3 of the ERA Sunday Championship. My name is Stephen Koenig, glad to have you guys here. It's going to be an absolutely fantastic evening full of racing here at Watkins Glen. Gotta say, very exciting times though, because we're all about challenging our drivers and going and seeing where we can put them in the most comfortable positions and also where they're least comfortable. This time around, we've decided to see who can play around in some wet weather racing here at the famous Watkins Glen racetrack. And honestly, welcome to playing bowling. So a couple of corners to keep an eye out for. Starting out into the 90. Now, you're going to be accelerating as hard as you can into the 90. That is turn 1. Going to be going down on the anchors, down the gears, third gear, right-hander, and it's quite wide open. So for the start of the race, there's a lot of places that you can move around and try and get the drive out. Then you start heading up towards the S's, flat out all the way. In the rain, though, might be a little bit of a lift to take you through the first S and second S before you apply the throttle. Just keep going on. Then the inner loop is the next corner to keep an eye out for. Side-by-side action is normally in the dry. This time in wet weather, you've got to be rather brave to do it. So expect some early braking. Those risk takers that can make it stick will be perfectly fine. You do not want to be too far on the inside line though. You will hit the puddles on your first entry, which is a right-hander. It'll slide you out to the middle of the track, and then you're in a world of hurt because you're going to hit the barrier on your left-hand side. As you make your way through the loop, you're going to focus on a long right-hander. Once again, water flow is down towards the bottom of the corner, and that right-hander does become a bit of a problem. The puddles start to build up on the apexes that you're going to be so cautious of, and make sure that you just take it gently. Maybe you're lifting a little bit wide. You don't really want to take the racing line through there. You want to take more of a wet line, which is a little bit wider. Through the corner, then you head towards the chute. Hard braking, quick left-hander to try and bring the car back, and then carry on the throttle. You can get some good times out of there. You can carry on the momentum, but then you start going and looking at the brakes before you head into the toe. This is the next after the making the way through the boot. Head into the toe, right-hander, hook it in, tightens up on you, so be very cautious on your way through. Down the straight into the heel, which is a quick brake. Once again, very open on the left-hand side. You can run out quite wide there. Up towards the left-hander, you're going to come over the crest. As you come over the crest, down the gears, second gear, hook it left, and it does narrow into single file. Going double file there, not the greatest idea through the left-hander and the short straight. Followed by a second left, which is opening up once again, allows cars to move around, but we do expect to see lots of off tracks happening at that very moment, and into the final corner, which will be your quick right. So a couple of things to keep an eye out for, and our drivers are going to be well aware of this as they make their way to the track. Let's go down to the grid and take a look at how it's going. So Nico Lawrence currently out on track. Lucas Koleb going to be having a bit of fun there as well, looking to try and push himself that little bit more. Now, we've been seeing he's been improving throughout the race, so let's see how this is going to go, well, throughout the season. Let's see how it's going to go this time around. Lots and lots of questions being asked by our drivers. Who can improve? Who's going to step it up here tonight? Well, we're about to find out a whole lot of it, that is for certain. So as our drivers make their way through, getting themselves used to it, let's take a look at how this championship's been, because we did have a one race break this past weekend, and that was because our drivers were actually doing a 24-hour endurance race. The ERA admin going in, being a big part of that and having a huge amount of fun. Did reasonably okay. Unfortunately, due to disconnects, that was pretty much that done and dusted. But let's take a look through the championship. because it does get a little bit wild. Christoph Peterson out in first place. Second is Mahath Musa, followed by Craig Hewlett, Sean Scooter, Thomas Morton, Chris Wall, Michael Castro, Paul Fenter, Stephen Milano, James, and Teddy Blonder for our diamond class. So keep that in mind. That is the white backgrounds. That is our diamond class. Moving on to our platinums, though. We've got Darius, who is out of the front in first place in the championship for platinum, followed by Glenn Smith, Camille Hassan, David Broski, who we see out on track in the 701 car, Ernest Limbriggs, Nico Lawrence, Christian Fingler, as he joined only in round 2, missing out round 1, and then Christoph Rolitsky rounding out in 8th. 9th is Sebastian Robinson, Martin Spitzer, Lucas Kolab, Eva Bravo, Daniel Christo, and Simon Kussert going and rounding out the field. Do want to mention, though, we do tend to bring surprises here at ERA. Well, we call them surprises, but for those that have been around long enough, they do know about the performance. Well, you do well, you land up with a performance ballast in the terms of time penalties that are added on. So a couple of our drivers are going to have to be well aware of that. Such as Darius, who's pointing the wrong way in his Ferrari 488 Evo, which is right before they moved over to the 296. David currently out in the McLaren 720S Evo. Nico Lawrence racing around in the Mercedes AMG GT3. Lucas Collab following suit in the AMG. Martin Spritzer running in 4th place. Paul the Wall Fenter, having a great time out there and recently been on a charge. So let's see how he's going to make his way up through the fight and who will be able to gain some time here. So let's bring in some of the noise, bring in some of the sights and sounds. We got Tim currently out on the cameras and working with our sounds. We got Jim, who will be handling all our in-game penalties that will be issued out and going and letting everyone know. Terence Ferreira, very interesting to see the name as fellow South African that's coming in and having his first crack at the ERA. So good to see him out here, Terence Ferreira, hoping to really put on the charge. Chris Wall running in 7th position. Christoph Peterson, remember, leader of the class, so he is now trying to make his way through. Christian Fingler, who is part of our ERA admin, out on the charge. Michael Christo, Sean Skitter, along with Darius, going and running in 12th. 13th, Mahath Musa, who's running 2nd in his class, and Thomas Morton. If anyone remembers back to round 2, Mahath Musa was on a charge. Unfortunately, got disconnected, and that was him out of the running. Fastest lap time of the race, though, set by the little Honda of Christoph Peterson. 2nd place, Paul Fenter running in 2nd. Chris Wall immediately putting himself into 3rd, bumping down Sean Skitter. Down the order, Martin Spritzer, Nico Lawrence, Christian Fingler, Thomas Morton, and Lucas Collab have put times on the board. It does look like an LNR 1, 2, 3, 4 at this point. Let's see if the rest of the teams will be able to put a ding in that, because at the moment it is a great charge from Christoph Peterson, putting a 157.5, a second quicker. Well, never mind. Michael Castro in the Porsche comes battling out, and Michael is not hanging around. Got a new livery on the car, got the Guinness on the side. Always exciting to see new liveries being put in, and drivers going and showing off some great designs coming from the paintworks. Chris Wall going and battling it out. David Roski actually dropping down because Mahath Musa putting in a great time. He puts himself into 4th place for the Project Vapor team, hoping to really stand on the gas now and bump his way up through the field. So how this is all going to turn out for him. 2nd in class. He's hoping to add some more. He's got to catch up to Christoph Peterson. David Borski in 6th place, having a great time out there. The McLaren looking a little bit more settled than it has been for quite some time. Oh, gets caught out by the Mustang, though, and has to bail out. Thomas getting a little bit of a fright there, checking in his rearview mirrors and suddenly having David all over the back of him. Had to back out of it, and unfortunately that's going to compromise both drivers' times. Thomas, I think, will actually have his time deleted, and he's going to have to try it again. Runs out wide, opening the gap a little bit. Doesn't want to get too close to the puddles on the left-hand side, which will be laying in wait. Christoph Peterson with a 156.9, just pipping out his fellow teammate Paul Fenter. Only 0.4 of a second behind, but Martin Spritzer puts himself into third. Keep an eye on the Lamborghini, it's on a charge. Michael's going to have to retaliate on that one. He's going to have to try and move his way up through the order, because this is not going to plan for him. So as he tries to make his way around the circuit just to get a little bit quicker at this point, hoping that he's going to be able to just break away from the other drivers. Comes across the line, puts himself into second place. That's going to help him out, getting ahead of Paul Fenter, breaking that teammate train up by quite a bit. Paul Fenter's going to have to come and retaliate on that one. Martin currently running 0.1 fast in his lap time. David comes across the line, puts himself into fourth. Martin in fifth, hoping that he can really keep on to the back. David and Martin running very similar lap times, a 157.7, but Paul Fenter is going to be one to keep an eye out for. Michael Castro puts himself in second place. Darius breaks away from his entire field, puts himself into third place with 157.3, but no one is yet to beat Christoph Peterson in the little Honda, who has somehow found a dry line to go and work with. Catches up to Paul Fenter. He's going to have a lot of spray in front of him. That's going to not play into his favor here, because it does wipe out a couple of those brake markers that you would generally go looking for. One driver that is waiting in the pits is Sebastian Rubison, who is now just waiting it out there. As we see our leader come across the line, 156.2 on that last lap. Absolutely banger lap times coming from Christoph Peterson. Will Michael Castro be able to battle it out, though? The Porsche has been quite a monster out on the circuit and is one of the more favorable cars in these conditions. The Porsche 992 GT3R is always one to keep an eye out for in wet weather conditions, able to get that little bit more momentum that is needed. Oddly enough, though, the 488 Ferrari, on the other hand, used to, and I stand to be corrected on this one, used to be a less favorable car in the wet conditions. It tends to battle quite a bit. A lot of understeer, a lot of oversteer that does get thrown out from it. So let's see how it's going to work out for our drivers, whether they'll be able to stretch out that gap a little bit more. But Darius currently 0.6 up on his personal best lap time. Can he carry the momentum through? Because this should bump him right up the order and possibly into second place to dethrone Michael. He's 0.5 up. It may be more than Michael. He gets himself into second place, so great charge there. Christian currently 0.1 up on his last lap time. Sean Skitter 0.8 on his personal lap time, and he is really trying everything. Does lose the rear of that McLaren on the exit. Had to try and fish it back from oblivion, but that's going to go and eliminate some of the time. He is really getting chased down, though, by one of our big, mighty Mercedes, and I do think that might be Lucas that's chasing him down. Yes, it is Lucas of the ERA racing team, trying to make up some time. Will utilize the slipstream here. Lucas is currently a second up on his personal best. This is going to be a flyer for Lucas. He can get into the top 10 if he can carry the momentum through. Last lap time was a 2-minute. His best lap time is a 159.3. Can he make it a 158? He's going to really have to dial it in. Runs out wide, over the curb, really keeping it absolutely pinned to the floor. As we do have another driver join in. Mr. Young comes in. Lucas gets himself into 11th position with a 157.9. Great to see it. And always fantastic to see those improvements that the drivers are starting to work their way through, trying to see what's going to work for them. How can they gain some time here? Darius, though, trying to improve his lap time. Currently fastest out on track. 0.6 of a second over his personal best. He may actually be able to get Christoph right at the line. He's got to carry the momentum through. He's down into third. Can Darius make up the time? He's going to have to really reel it in. The 488's going to give it horns, going to try everything he can. We jump on board as he's fishtailing all over the show. Keeps it together. You can see constantly, frantically behind the steering wheel. 0.6. This is going to carry him into first place. He keeps it pinned, and comes across the line to take it away from Christoph Peterson. Running now in second place, a little Honda dethroned by 0.077 of a second ahead of Darius. So Christoph is really going to have to try and get his teeth in. At this point, though, he is 0.3 of a second down on his personal best. That's not going to be an improvement. The only car currently out on track with an improvement on his lap time is Chris Wall, the LNR E-Racing CJW Aston Martin from Logistical Nightmare Racing. 0.9 of a second up. Gonna keep up the throttle, really keeping it pinned. 0.9 up is incredible to find that little bit more pace, trying to carry that momentum through. Is it going to be enough, though? That is the question that's going to be asked, and many of our spectators sitting out there on the grandstands will be keeping an eye on this. Darius comes across the line. Christoph still needs to go. Michael Castro, David, Sean Skitter, Mahath Musa, Paul Fenter, Martin Spritzer, along with Christian Fingler, Nico Lawrence, Lucas Collip, Chris Wall, 0.1 of a second up. This is going to be an incredible pace from Chris Wall. 0.11, losing a little bit on corner entry. Keep it pinned, buddy. Keep it pinned. Can you get your way into that top 10? He's a second up. Comes across the line and puts himself into 8th place. Well done. Terence Ferreira down into 13th. And it does look like Thomas trying to improve his lap time. Really trying to keep it pinned. Christoph Peterson not backing down from the fight. He's hoping to try and retake that top spot. But I think it's going to be too little too late at this point. The little Honda has no time to make up some huge gains at the point, because he's going to knock off 0.077 of a second. So 77 milliseconds just between him and Darius, lying out in first place. Our two championship leaders of their divisions will be starting on the first row. Will it be Christoph with the advantage into the right-hander, or will it be Darius? Now, in these conditions, I would prefer to be on the outside. Christoph says, nah, this is not going to work for me. I'm going to be calling it into the pits. So, as we head back to the commentary box, and we'll be keeping an eye as our drivers will be lining themselves up in due course for this hour-long, very wet race for round 3 of the Evolution Racing Academy Sunday Championship Season 11, ladies and gentlemen. 11 seasons down the road, 2 servers running, and just getting bigger, better, and more wild. 7 rounds in the championship. 2 have gone by, 3rd is currently on, and it's getting only more wild. From extremely hot conditions to extremely wet conditions, we had a little bit of a break for our drivers to breathe and try out racing a 24-hour this past weekend. To those that were racing it, we extend a well done to every single team and driver that were participating right here from ERA. To everyone out there, thank you very much for having the ERA family racing with you guys. And thank you very much for such an awesome 24-hour. Lots of great moments shared there. Unfortunately, though, we do mention we didn't quite get across the line due to some technical difficulties. But we're not having any of that here at Watkins Glen. No. We are going to have excitement. We're going to have fun. We're going to have an absolute great time for round 3. Very wet conditions. It is 22 degrees track temperature, so it's very cold out there, and very slick. So the drivers are going to be focusing on the warm-up lap. 1, to get as much heat as possible into those brakes and tires, because the brakes are going to cool down rather rapidly. So they're going to be closing those brake ducts up. So in your setup, you're going to be closing the brake ducts up to try and preserve as much heat within the car as possible. And it is going to challenge our drivers.
We have some slippery curves, and also watch out for your braking distance.
There we go. Jim giving us some insight of what to do, what to keep an eye out for. Always a shout out to Jim for going and making sure that our drivers are informed and know what they need to do. So let's take a look down to the track, as there is a sight, and we're starting to see those those well done. You won the race, but you're going to get penalized. And this allows the grid to get a bit closer to everything. Many people might be thinking, but you win. Why do you get penalized for it? Well, here at ERA, this is to challenge the drivers. The more that you win, the more that you have to overcome. Challenges the driver to improve and to go and think out of the box of what needs to be done to be able to get rid of the disadvantage at hand. Example, Peterson sitting with a 45-second deficit on him. He's going to have to make 45 seconds over his competition because he's going to be serving that during his pit stops. An extra 45 seconds means that your tires are cooling down, your brakes are cooling down, the new tires you've just chucked on is getting ice cold. Many of those factors are going to be running through the heads of our drivers. You've done well, now you have to learn to overcome. And Christoph Peterson has got a lot, and I mean a lot on the cards to try and overcome, especially in that little Honda, because it's going to be battling out there with the very, very tricky conditions. You want to maximize heat. So, locking out the front though, Darius and Christoph, current leaders of their respective Diamond and Platinum championships. Let me remind you once again, anyone that is holding the Diamond status is a white number board that you see on the left-hand side. Christoph Peterson being the head honcho for that one. He's going to be keeping an eye on Mahath Musa, who's running in 6th place. For Platinum, Darius is in 1st place, and anyone that's got the red number board is your current Platinum class. So Darius is going to look for Glenn Smith, who we don't see here racing tonight. Camille Hassan is running in 3rd place. I don't see Camille Hassan as well, so that's a bit of a problem. But 4th place is David Borski. So David is running in 4th place. He's going to be chasing down, hoping to get a little bit closer to the rest of the field. So bear that in mind. Championship leads are in a fight here for both Diamond and Platinum status. And the last thing they want to do is lose out those championship runnings. But we're starting to see those performance penalties coming in. Darius with 15 seconds on him. Sean Skitter has got 5 seconds. Remember, Sean Skitter was quite confident after his last race in round 2, saying, well, this was a great one. He's got it pretty much all hooked in the bag. He doesn't see any problems coming from it and doesn't think that there's going to be an issue at all. He's really got this car hooked in, figured it out, and that's why he did well in round 2. But let's see if he'll be able to replicate that come round 3, starting here tonight. He's going to be right next to David, who is running in 4th place. Michael Castro, who you see in the Porsche, up ahead is running in 3rd. Just Go Fast is hoping to stay on the back of Christoph Peterson and Darius, because if he can keep on the back of Darius off the start, he can go and force Christoph Peterson very, very wide into the puddles, loss of grip, and take him out of the running. Sean Skitter's got 5 seconds. David's got 5 seconds added to his time, as our cars will be rolling shortly to kick off the night. Round 3 of the ERA Sunday Championship. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I hope you're excited, because I am extremely excited. Treacherous conditions that our drivers are going to have to be working their way through, and it's all on the line. So, as we take a look at our drivers making their way off the start, let's see who's going to be able to make the gains and losses here for the ERA Sunday Championship. Taking a look to our grid though for the ERA Sunday Championship. Let's start off Darius in the 488 Evo Ferrari, hoping to really get the top end of the order. Championship leader for his class is lining up next to Christoph Peterson. 3rd place, Michael Castro in the Porsche 992 GT3R. David Walshy running in 4th place, but it doesn't look like he's made it to the grid. That is going to promote Sean Skitter up, who's got Mahath Musa tailing him down. But Mahath Musa got his, I wouldn't say championship rival in the Aston Martin hunting him down. He's going to be looking over to his side and seeing that Martin Switzer in the Lamborghini is looking to chase him down and get ahead. Then Paul Fenter, who has got a little bit of history with the Project Vapor team, hoping to really get a little bit more underneath his skin and try and push his way up. Chris Wall hoping to back up his teammate, but also score some valuable points here tonight. Christian Fringler, who has missed out round 1, trying to reclaim some points in the championship and get a foothold back in for season 11. Nico Lawrence in 11th position. Lucas Cullen running in 12th position. Keep an eye on the 2 AMGs. They are brutally fast in the wet and can pull out last-minute stops. We have seen the likes of Lucas and Nico improve, but we did see Nico have major problems in round 2. Terence Ferreira out in the Mustang, all the way out from South Africa. First time in the season he is running, but he's hoping to really stamp up that pace a little bit more. A different car to what he usually has been racing. He's usually been Ferraris, he's usually been Porsches, more mid-engine. This time trying out the front-engine Mustang. Well, welcome to the conditions. Thomas, who has got a lot of experience with the Mustang, lying in 14th position, is looking to get an early jump on the rest of the field and claw his way through, waiting a little bit back in the patience. Dave Young, new to Logistical Nightmare Racing liveries that I've seen on track, but Dave Young hoping that he can go and be that rabbit out of the hat, that dark horse, that joker card in the deck. Well, we're about to see it all kicking off very, very soon as our drivers make their way through. I see David Bosch is currently in the pits, so he's not only going to be starting at the back end of the field, he's still got 5 seconds to serve, so not ideal circumstances for him, but 1 hour of racing, 1 mandatory pit stop. Anything can happen here tonight, ladies and gentlemen, as they make their way through, slowing the pace down, start going and really leaning on those brakes, building up as much heat into the tires, into the rim, into the brakes as possible. That's brake drag needing to be done as we are going to be racing in due course, lining themselves up 70 kilometers an hour, line astern, side by side. They are watching to the mirrors, they're watching to the lights. Jim will call green as our 15 cars looking to start the race. 14 are rolling. 15th is currently sitting in the pits. He's going to have to wait till the entire field gets by and then go chasing after from zero. Green lights and rear go. Darius hoping they could get a jump off the line. He loses out to Christoph, who seems to have got it absolutely pinned off the line. Comes across the nose. Darius backing himself down. Michael Castro dealing with the likes of Sean Skitzer. Tries to go around the outside. Sean Skitzer having to try and bring it back. He does go out very, very wide. And you can see how that's dropping him down as Sean Skitzer lays into the inside line, trying to move his way up through the order, but loses out to David, who is in for a fight at the moment. Mahath Musa is now going on the defense as he sees Paul Fenter try and go around the outside, second-guessed it, moved himself back into it. So Paul Fenter with Martin all over the back of him. Martin trying to make up some time. David getting off the circuit, and it looks like he might be retiring that car. Martin trying to hold the inside line. Chris Wall looks around the outside as they make their way through. Sean Skitzer, though, feeling the pressure from Mahath Musa, who's going to go around the outside, trying to carry everything can in the BMW, but gets unsteady on the throttle. That he instantly opens up a door for Paul Venter, who takes a look on the inside. He now second guesses it, tries to go for a late braking. Couldn't quite get the car under control. Had to back it off. So Paul Fenter is going to follow suit, but Mahath Musa starting to feel the pressure. Martin Spritzer, though, going a little bit further back. He's going to go side by side with Chris Wall. Chose to go for it, but second guessed it. Mahath Musa once again on the heavy attack. Little bit of a nudge between himself and Sean Skitzer. Not too bad there. Just enough to lighten up the paint a little bit. But Sean Skitzer, unfortunately, a little bit unnerved there. Not getting the power down. Suddenly bottling up his own teammate. Paul Fenter is going to go around on the inside, into the left-hander they go. Late on the anchors, does bring across, and McLaren getting thrown off the track. And we do see Michael Castro, unfortunately, in the middle of the circuit, creating a bit of a problem there, as everyone's having to take evasive maneuvers at this point, not expecting to see Michael parked off. So what on earth happened to Michael? Let's see if we could go take a look. Go to Tim in the helicam. Maybe he can give us a better idea. I think maybe the rear just snapping out as he went over the curb. Yep, snapped out. He's able to keep it. Oh, no, never mind. Just clipped the wall. and unfortunately parked in the middle of the track, everyone having to take a maneuver. Sean Skitter, who tried leaning left to just go and see whether he can get by, suddenly he gets a car in his face, deciding, no, maybe that wasn't the best idea, I'm going to wait it out here. But that lost him out some time. Chris Wall managing to get onto the back of Paul Fenter. Now the Logistical Nightmare Racing team are going to have to think about this. But interesting tactics at play. Christian Fringler, who has managed to get himself into the pits with Michael Castro. Both cars are going and getting serviced now. This will count as a mandatory pit stop. We do have that number 1 in the orange border for anyone out there that's not quite familiar with it. That is a mandatory pit stop. How do you get your mandatory pit stop? Well, you get it into the box, jack the car up, tires. You don't have to replace the tires. You need to put at least 1 liter of fuel in the car and then go racing once again. You have to make sure you line yourself up properly though, otherwise it will not count. And I repeat, will not count if you can't line yourself up correctly. Do want to ask a couple of questions though. Fingler, who is in the pits for quite some time, Michael Castro would have been doing a bit of repair work on his car. So Michael's done a full set tire, but Christian was in the pits for quite a long time. That number 30 was not a happy camper, and I think it was from early on. So let's go and take a look at what happened to him. Jump to the helicam because we can't see much. Late braking towards Terence Ferreira in that Mustang. And Terence getting a little bit unsteady on the throttle. Christian tries to look for the inside line. He peered in. Oh, contact between himself and Terence Ferreira. And landed up side on from another one of the Aston Martins. That I think that may have been Mr. Young. Was it Mr. Young? No, it wasn't. I wonder who was the car that went into the side of Christian there. As we just take a quick look around from the top end, I did see who may it be that went into the side of him. So, in any case, Christian was doing a lot more repair work to his car there than expected. As we see Chris Wall opening up the gap to Sean Skitter, but losing our time to Paul Fenter. Now, what you will notice in this race, a little bit different to what we've seen all season long, the close racing is going to be less apparent in this race because the closer you get, the more you can't see. Don't believe me? Well, let's go to the helmet cam of the likes of Nico, who's right onto the back of Lucas, who's just ahead of him. You can see that spray engulfing him. Can't figure out where he can go, so backs off a little bit just to see where the back markers are. A little bit of understeer as we do see that is Martin, who has come off the circuit. Now Martin's going to be feeling the pressure from Lucas and Nico, gaining some time as we do see Lucas going for an inside line, second guessed it, maybe just moving out of the way, just to see where the brake markers are. Didn't quite expect to see the Lamborghini, but now looking to take advantage of the matter at hand. Runs out a little bit wide. Nico instantly puts his nose in to just try and bring it back. Couldn't quite get it all sorted out as our cars charge their way through. Terence Ferreira dealing with Dave Young on the back of him, just in the rear camera shot, but Lucas getting sideways, really thrashing the car around the circuit, trying to improve, trying to get that one up on Martin just ahead of him, trying to capitalize on a few issues. Now we do see Dave Young lining himself up, going maybe for a pass. As we zoom in a little bit, Dave Young got to go late on the anchors into turn one. Oh, just not close enough to Terence Ferreira just as yet, but did put his nose in just to see if it was possible. Maybe, just maybe, that advantage would be there. But Dave Young trying to carry the momentum. Terence Ferreira starting to open up the gap. A little bit more comfortable heading into the S's, keeping the throttle pinned a little bit more. But for how long? As we make our way to the inner loop, this is where you got to line yourself up on the inside if you want to get past your competitor. But we do know those curbs are very, very slippery. Expect the rear to step out, feathering the throttle through, not trying to get too much wheel spin as they make their way through the order. So, with two cars done the pit stops early on, Castro and Christian, both Michael and Christian have completed their pit stop. Christian, we know, was doing some major repair work on the side of his car, where Michael was just trying to get the pit stop out of the way. He's trying to do everything he can to make up the time. Terence Ferreira feeling the pressure though, is keeping it absolutely pinned. As we jump on board, you can see the spray getting kicked up, the rooster tails of these cars becoming more and more apparent. Chris Young's going to try and close down that gap as much as possible, just to stay onto the back of Terence Ferreira. Hope that he can keep those mirrors very, very busy on the power. Goes in for the inside line. Oh, major contact. And Dave Young, unfortunately, with some huge contact into the side of Ferreira. Not ideal circumstances there, but let's see if we can go on board. Let's take a look at the helmet as we see the spray getting kicked up from Young in the Aston Martin, chasing down Terence Ferreira ahead of him. He looks for the inside line, goes late on the anchors, couldn't quite slow the car down enough. And unfortunately, both cars landing up a bit in the weed work there. Ferreira is going to keep on accelerating though. He's going to try and manage the car, trying to figure out where the damage is, how this is going to go. Paul Fenter getting the drive on Mahath Musa. Now these two are going to go battling it up. Mahath Musa going and making a very, very fantastic photo of Paul Fenter having a cup of coffee. And it's got Project Vapor approved written all over it, which to this day, Paul's not the biggest fan of the photo, but I think it was beautifully photoshopped. Mahath Musa from Project Vapor now trying to gain some time and maybe going to pull out those vapor dives that Paul Fenter seems to fear quite a bit of, those late braking maneuvers. Mahath Musa, who's gone from he's gone from ACC to iRacing, did a little bit of a stint in prototype racing in an LDMH car, BMW, if I remember correctly. Transitioning between two sims, he says the difficult part between it is just trying to move forward at this point. Christoph Pearson doing a fantastic job. I do remember that Sean Skitter, Paul Fenter, and I think it was Christoph as well, who recently did a Kyalami 9-hour race this past weekend on Saturday, if I do believe, going and having a bit of fun. They were running in 4th, and I do believe they finished in 4th place as well as a logistical nightmare racing team, and being a team that is now not only just to South Africa, but a international team in that. Darius chasing him down, 2nd place, current champion, hoping to improve and really just trying to move his way up through the order. Ben, a driver, setting up multiple setups for everyone you see on the grid, trying to help him out, especially for those that are less skilled in setup or very unfamiliar with the way of these cars in terms of their setup. What do you want to do? It's definitely one of the drivers that reaches his hand out and says, listen, let me give you a hand here. Let's work through actually tailing a lot of the setups to the driver's driving style versus just optimum. So a lot of paid setups that you go through, well, Darius does a little bit different. He concentrates on your driving aspect. If you lift off oversteer, if you understeer a lot, are you very harsh on the tires, he tends to help tailor the setups to fit those that will improve. So great to see that little bit of a hand reach out, as we do see Sean Skitter has served his 5-second penalty and is in the pits, so he's going to be waiting out. Dave Young will be getting past him and carrying up. So Dave Young moving up in position. Sean Skitter going to be coming out fairly soon to carry on for his race. But Thomas, though, not having an easy time. Where on earth did that little car go? And he managed to find himself into the deep oblivion, into the shadow realm. And unfortunately, that is one pony that has been taken around the back. And unfortunately, will be going missing in action there. So let's take a look at Thomas as he was making his way through. All looked fine, a little bit over the curb. Got a bit understeery. Trying to keep on the power. Did the rear snap out as he went onto the curb? Yes, it did, but not on the curb. Tries to bring it back and side on into the bucket and into the barrier. And unfortunately, those are filled with water. They do weigh an absolute ton. No joke, they actually weigh close to 500 kilograms if you're lucky. So Thomas is now with some major damage to his car, will be battling out. I mean, if we go on board, let's take a look at his helmet. You can see how he's trying to keep this car straight by pulling the steering back. So much damage to this front end. You can see just doesn't want a corner, feathering the throttle through. He's going to have to get it into the pits, and this is just going to drop him down the order. He's going to serve his mandatory pit stop, but unfortunately, this is going to hurt his chances of staying into that top 10, as Michael, Sean Skidder, and Christian are going to be looking to make up some time. Nico Lawrence lining himself up behind Lucas as he tries to go for the inside line. Lucas gets a little bit more momentum though, carrying it through the inner loop. Lucas, hoping for the ERA team, has got himself going, really pushing out a little bit hard. You can see the rain light flashing away on the back of these two AMGs. Oh, Lucas going in completely wide onto the dirt, tries to bring it back. This is just going to be an absolute nightmare as Nico tries to bring it back at him, hoping that he can gain that little bit of time. Really looks for the inside line, he backs out of it once again, just not having the confidence in the wet weather and worrying if he's going to just slide into the side of Lucas. He's going to rather wait it out. Tries to keep a tighter exit though to get ahead of Lucas, but just couldn't get on the throttle as hard. So Lucas at the moment taking the ideal racing line for the wet weather racing, and that does help carry a lot of the momentum through, but he does understeer quite a lot, and that's allowing Nico to stay right onto the back of him. So for Nico, he needs to really try and force a mistake here from the likes of Lucas, who constantly are having that understeer. You start to suss out your competition, see where they're weaker in the rain to the dry, as we see Thomas still parked in the pits. Unfortunately, he will be dropping to 14th position, and that is going to be an absolute devastation run for him. Just leaving, as we see the back of that Ford Mustang leaving the pit lane, will be looking to try and get the momentum going. Will have to wait for the rest of the field to come by, as he's now a lap down on our current battle of Lucas and Nico at the moment, the two Mercedes AMGs that we don't get to talk about too much. Let's go back to round 2. Nico landing up with that monster accident early on in the race, had to try and power his way through, hoping to just try and limp the car to the end. It was a devastation in points though for him, and not ideal race that he's going to hope to put behind him very, very quickly in that running. So he's going to have to really think about where does his head say he needs to be. So Nico, who lost out a little bit of time, only managing to score 4 points at Barcelona, did score 10 points at the likes of Indianapolis, which was round 1. So 14 points all told, and we cannot forget there is a drop round that these drivers will be planning for. Now, for those that are missing out a night, that will be their drop round that they're going to have to deal with. But it does land up with a bit of a problem in the long scheme of things. Bad races can throw you down the order. So for Nico at the moment, he is looking to try and gain a bit more time, as Lucas, who's gone missing in action actually. What happened to Lucas? There he is. While I was going and rambling away, like I land up doing usually, I just missed out with likes of Lucas getting it all types of wrong. So let's take a look back in a short replay, as this is Lucas losing it just on the exit of the inner loop. Goes out wide. Yep, lost it on the inner loop. Swings it round. Beautiful 360. Nearly got a 3. Yeah, nearly got a little bit more than that. A beautiful pirouette, I would say. Well done. Not ideal circumstances, but kept it out of the wall, and that's all he needs to do. But that does drop him into the clutches of Terence Ferreira and Dave Young, who are still going and battling out. The two of them are hanging onto the back of one another. So, with 43 minutes and 35 seconds now left to the race, let's go through the running order, as it's Christoph Peterson, Darius Schwarmaskar. Once again, I do apologize, Darius. I do want to get this name right. Then Paul Fenter running in third. Old Fenter trailer just going and doing what a Fenter trailer does, hanging into the back there and waiting for the load to be handed to him. Mahath Musa running in fourth place. Chris Wall in fifth. Sixth place is Martin Spitzer. Nico Lawrence running in seventh. Eighth place, Lucas Cullip, along with Terence Ferreira, Dave Young, Michael Castro, Sean Skitter, Christian Fringler, and Thomas Morton making their way around. Only one retirement thus far, and that unfortunately was from David, who is running fourth in the championship for the Platinum, if I remember correctly. Yes, he was running 4th in the Platinum. Unfortunately, losing out that time. So he's joining Glenn Smith and Camille Hassan in losing a drop round in that. But David did start the race, so don't count him out. That's a good score of points for him as they make their way through. Paul Fenter, though, who we currently need to keep an eye out for, is running at the moment 8th in the Diamond status. So he's now going to be running 2nd in class, with Mahath Musa, who's running 2nd in the championship, in 3rd. So Mahath Musa, who scored 0 points after his disconnect at Barcelona, is hoping that he can gain a bit more time on the way through. So Thomas out there still going, putting in some great lap times. Fastest lap of the race, though, goes to the likes of Paul Fenter with a 56.550 as his last lap time, but his best was a 156.080. Remember, they're going to have to make up some time. Oh, Christian losing it out, though, and I think that is through the long right-hander. Yes, that is just after the inner loop, and now moving out of the way. Looks like the car is okay, as we see Darius going and getting past without a problem. Christian losing that rear, I would think, of the Lamborghini just by running out wide and having it snap out underneath him. So let's go to the helicam, though. This is the inner loop. Christian Fringler running currently in 13th position. Tries to go into the right-hander, carrying a lot of momentum through, and just the rear stepping out, unfortunately. And that was all she wrote of the Lamborghini Evo. He's able to keep it out of the wall, he's able to keep it going, but lost out a significant amount of time there, losing out to both Michael and Sean Skitter at the moment, who are currently doing rather well, considering they were the first cars to pit. Both Michael and Sean Skitter were the earlier cars to pit. So was Christian after his damage. Remember, Christian had a big amount of damage to his car, 51.0 seconds stopped in the box, doing tires, fuel, and repair work after getting T-boned at the start. The only car that didn't have too much damage was actually Michael. Light scrape on the nose as we saw him rotate out of the second last corner and have the entire field come by. So he is doing a grand job at the moment, keeping the consistent pace. 156.9 was kept by him. Sean Skitter, 159.047. That was a bit of a rough one for him, so he's going to have to improve. The 156 mark is where you want to be, because that is currently what the leaders are running at. As we take a look to Dave Young and Terence Ferreira, these two still going at one another. The Aston Martin and the Mustang GT3, two very iconic cars in the front engine space. The Mustang recently added to Assetto Corsa Competizione, recent to the IMSA and WEC series alike in the world, after a bit of a hiatus from Ford, with their previous GT3 being only the Ford GT as their previous old one, made also at the same time as Dave Young's Aston Martin AMR GT3. This is the V8 AMR, not the V12 of prior. The V12 was the last of the true Aston Martins, all built by Aston Martin. This time round, oh, as we see Terence getting a snap oversteer there. Dave Young driving the V8, which actually uses a Mercedes engine and Mercedes drivetrain, the same as you find in the AMG, just to help better it out. Very loud, very exciting. Does sound like if you're going and kicking a penguin down the street. I wouldn't say it is the most greatest car if you're into looking after the environment, because the sound it makes is beautiful, but it's definitely not one that the Polar Bears are going to be supporting. Terence Ferreira in the Mustang, also same type of car. It's just a brutal monster, as he suddenly has Dave Young all over the back of him. So Terence and Dave have got to think about the long game here. Both are running within that top 10, keeping a consistent pace. Any battling now will bring them closer to Michael. Looking at the pit stops, though, 30 seconds in the box is what it's going to be at. They're needing to try and make up some time. They're currently lying 4 seconds behind Lucas at the moment, who's running in 8th position, who's just within sight, and right ahead of him, though, Nico Lawrence is also just little bit up the road. So they're going to have to keep this consistent between the two of them, but they have been in a back-forth battle, so I think the red mist will be slowly creeping in over those visors, making it a little bit more difficult. Drivers are going to have to think about the bigger picture here of what they need to do to step up the game. How they're going to close up at distance as Terence Ferreira losing it out. Dave Young managing to score the position. Not ideal circumstances for Terence Ferreira, but that rear just kicking out underneath him. Let's take a look, though, as we see the Ford Mustang getting the momentum out of turn 1, heading up towards the S's. First S flying onto the dirt, bounces on the suspension, and just slides it out and impacting the wall. That is going to add to his pit stop time. Not ideal circumstances, as we do see another Mustang in the wall. That is Thomas. Thankfully, no big damage to the front end of that car, but he's having a nightmare of a run. So whatever happened to Thomas at this moment is going to be a one for Tim to show us as we take us back towards a replay. In through the inner loop, coming out on the throttle, gets a tank slap. He's able to bring it back just a little bit. Runs close to the apex. That's going to be over the river and just immediately has the car snap out underneath him. Does bring it out of the wall, facing the crowd. And, well done for keeping it out of the woodwork there, buddy. You've done a great job. Now it's interesting to take a look at our first and second as Darius has decided to turn up the heat. He is properly getting onto the back and trying to push himself out a little bit forward. So keep an eye out on him. He is not going to wait it out any longer behind Christoph. So he's going to hope to get that little bit more momentum as our drivers make their way through. Anything's on the cards here as they try and step up that pace just a bit more here at ERA for round 3 of the Sunday Championship. All is alive and well, and all is getting exciting here at ERA. And our drivers going through the worst of the worst conditions. It's now dropped down a degree from the start of the race. It's 21 degrees out there on the track, 18 degrees air temperature, and it is not a very sunny time. That rain is absolutely pouring down, making life more and more miserable for our drivers. 35 minutes to go. Christoph out in first place. Now starting to look in his mirrors, sees Darius catching up at 1.82 seconds behind him. So Darius is going to keep feeding that pressure on, hoping that the little Honda is going to make a mistake. And let's see whether the V8 Ferrari can close down on the more 4-cylinder twin turbocharged Honda just ahead, hoping for that there to go. So Christoph into the pits, first of our top 10 to dive into the pits. And we do see Terence Ferreira's into the pits, so he's actually so Christoph would be second of our cars into the pits for the top 10. So interesting enough indeed. Paul Fenter following suit, so maybe a bit of communication there of getting into the pits and sorting themselves out. Mahath Musa is going to be promoted up, but remember, Christoph Peterson's got 45 seconds deficit to him. So for the likes of Mahath Musa, seeing this, he needs to dial it up to 10, 11, 12. He needs to go really up through the order, as unfortunately Terence Ferreira on the exit too quickly off a pit limiter gets a stop-go 30-second penalty, just coming out ahead of the likes, and that is Martin Switzer in the Lamborghini, who now is not only just giving a blue flag to Terence Ferreira, but seeing that Terence has still got a stop-go 30-second penalty, he wants to clear Terence as fast as possible because Nico Lawrence is just there in shot. So Nico's going to try come at him here. So the more that Terence Ferreira can actually stall out, the more this is going to help for the likes of Nico. Martin is in a bit of a problem here. He's going to have to think very, very carefully on how he's going to go. Paul Fenter comes out in 8th position after his pit stop. 30 seconds, so that tells me tires and fuel has been put on. Martin, quick flash of the lights, telling Terence, listen, I'm coming by, buddy. Whether you like it or not, this is going to happen. And now Nico Lawrence is going to go in for the attack as well. So Nico really needs to dial it up. does go a little bit wide. He's trying to see where those brake markers are. Terence Ferreira is taking up a lot of that view at the moment, and you have to keep an eye on how this is going to go. Paul Venter up into 8th place is one to worry about, and he will be setting the bar at the moment, currently in a net first if all goes well in his favor. Darius, remember, has got 15 seconds that he needs to do, so expect him in the box for at least 45 seconds on his run. So not going to be a fun time there, as we do see the stop-go 30-second penalty of Terence Ferreira is going to loom on. He's got 3 laps to get that stop-go done and dusted. He's going to dive into the pits, possibly in this lap. No, he's going to keep on going. But Nico decides he's not going to lose too much time here. He pulls into the pits. Martin, on the other hand, is going to keep an eye in the mirror and go, oh boy, he's just missed out this opportunity to possibly go and undercut and cause the likes of Nico to have a problem. But now it's the other way around. You've got to start focusing on the overcut. What are you going to do? How are you going to get that momentum? Martin has to really dial it up to try and break away from Nico. Lucas Coleb gets by. He's now moved up in position. He gets into 5th. Dave Young goes up into 6th place. So keeping it consistent. Slowly chipping away at the moment. But he is just lost track of his previous racing buddy of Terence Ferreira, and will continue to make it sometime. So our top 7 now needing to pit. First of those that have done their pit stops, Paul Venter jumps up into 7th position, gets ahead of Nico Lawrence, and now Paul the Wall Venter, hoping to be the wall lover no more, carries on that momentum. He's hoping that if he can get a little bit closer, he can maximize points. Remember, his target is to beat Mahath Musa and Chris Wall, who are the cars ahead of him. Everyone else is in a completely different class. Yes, you would love to go for the overall win, but you got to think about the long game here. 7 rounds in a championship. How can you maximize your points? Well, easiest one, don't worry about the classes that are not there. Don't worry about the platinums. Focus on the diamonds that you are in. For Paul Venter at the moment, that is Chris Wall and Mahath Musa, who are quite some time up on him as well. They are roughly about 30 odd seconds up the road after that pit stop. Remember, the pit stops do add 30 seconds, which Paul showed. Nico Lawrence 36 seconds, Michael was 34 seconds, Christoph Peterson 78 seconds in the box. Remember, he did stop with a 45-second deficit, and that is going to hurt him. He's only 5.1 seconds behind Michael Castro though, so he can close up that gap to Michael Castro, who is onto the back of Nico Lawrence, who's left pit lane as well. Remember, Nico Lawrence, different class, but is still trying to get that little bit of momentum. He's trying to carry his way up through the order, so he's going to feel the pressure. Michael's going to constantly feed it into the back of him and say, hey, listen, buddy, what happens now? You are going to make a mistake. You're going to back out of this. And at the moment, I want to score valuable points. So Michael Castro, who's 7th in the championship, did not race at Barcelona. So he's 7th in the championship, lost out the points of Barcelona. If he can make points here tonight, especially lying in currently 4th place in class, this is going to bump him up the order, because his cars ahead of him that he has to beat. Chris Wall, Thomas Morton, who's now down in 14th position, Sean Skitter, a little bit behind him, and the likes of Craig Hewlett, not here. Mahath Musa, as we know, running in 2nd place, and Christoph Peterson, who is now down the order. So for Michael, it's all about maximizing points. For Nico, he's 6th in the championship. He scored 10 points at Indianapolis, 4 points at Barcelona. His target is to get ahead of Dave Young, Lucas Coleb, Martin Spritzer, and Darius, who's running in 1st place at the moment. Darius needs to keep an eye out, as we do see Terence Ferreira. Where on earth are you going, buddy? Through the S's. Here comes Nico and Michael charging past. Terence Ferreira, who lost it into the S's, now suddenly goes way down the order and losing out valuable time. So I do think the rear snapping out underneath him once again, as this was coming out of pit lane. So he served the stop-go 30 seconds, gets on the power, now frustrated from having to serve that 30-second penalty, comes out, turn 1, turn 2, now heading up towards the S's, immediately snap oversteer. Once again, tires and brakes absolutely frozen from that previous stop. This is not working out in his favor. 2 pit stops currently done by him. Not to plan though, not what he wanted. Lucas Kohler pulls into the pits. Interesting enough, let's see where Paul Fenter is going to be. He's going to be just exiting out of the second last corner and eyeing it out. So Paul Fenter will get the jump on Lucas. That will move him up through the order, move him into 6th place. For Lucas, he's going to be slowing down a bit and waiting as he gets into the box. Suddenly, Nico Lawrence is going to be onto the back of him. Nico is bringing along Michael rather quickly. These two can gain a lot of time to possibly get past Lucas right before it, and that is not ideal. Lucas still parked in the box. Nico is going to be coming around. Michael Castro onto the back of him. Lucas needs to get going now or never for him. He is really trying to get this car topped up. Michael Castro getting the momentum in the slipstream. Is this going to be enough for him? He does take a look on the inside, breaking into turn 1. Can he get it all hooked in? Nico gets ahead, but it does look like Lucas going and losing out of position. Well, not losing out one position, loses out 1, 2, and suddenly Christoph Peterson taking a dive around the outside will carry a lot of momentum. The little Honda has got VTEC gun and kicked in, and now trying to cut by. Looks around the outside, looks around the inside, drops in behind Lucas, who's going to now defend the outside line. Suddenly, let's see if the little Honda can hit the brakes hard enough. Does so, swallows up that apex just fine. Lucas having to be a little bit more patient as Christoph getting the pass done and dusted. So Christoph Pearson jumping up into that 9th place. Will be eyeing it out as we do see Michael constantly running out a little bit wide now, pushing harder and harder. The pressure starting to come in. The fear of losing out to Nico. Nico watching his mirrors, trying to see where he can go. Goes late on the anchors, tries to bring it in. The little Porsche hoping they can rotate quite a bit. Dave Young pulling into the pits, so 5th place now into the pits, and that is going to allow Paul Fenter to gain yet another position on through the run. Michael trying to gain that little bit of momentum, hard on the anchors, tries to bring it in for the inside line, carrying a lot of pace underneath him. Nico feeling that pressure, keeping a bit more of a tighter line, tries to get himself organized as he heads up into the left-hander, runs out a little wide, straightening the car out, seeing that Michael is dancing behind him, going and playing a little bit of tango at the moment. And this is what we love about the rain. It's all about dancing in the rain. How are you going to feather through the throttle? How are you going to tiptoe over one another? But where you need to get aggressive and stamp your feet around and force a way past using the ends of the circuit, but be cautious of the lines and apexes. Don't want to get onto those curbs, otherwise you will start to see the world around you twirl and spin off into the distance. Not ideal circumstances for our drivers. Dave Young dropping down into 11th position, and that tells me later pit stops, not ideal circumstances. 24 minutes gone by. Darius, Mahath, Musa, Chris Wall, and Martin, who have committed to late pit stops, are going to have to really dial it up now. They're going to have to push incredibly hard to go for it. So Mahath Musa, who just saw how that pit stop worked out, he's going to pull into the pits. He's going to wait it out now. As Terence Ferreira again into the dirt, coming out of the S's, heading into the inner loop. He's going straight on at this point, trying to bring the car back. Not having an easy time here, and it looks like he is stopping the car. So Terence may be actually retiring the Ford Mustang. Mike Musa into the pits, Martin is into the pits. So those two cars are in the pits. Where is Paul Fenter? This is the question. Paul Fenter has an opportunity here. Mahath Musa is still in the pits. Can he get the momentum? Mahath Musa has been on an utter charge in South African Series over Paul Fenter. He's had a lot more momentum there. Martin Spritzer, who's been on a phenomenal charge for round 3. He's hoping to hold on to that top 3. As Paul Fenter comes on by, gets past Mahath Musa and gets past Martin, as we do see Mahath Musa, that BMW, coming out of the pit. So Paul Fenter has now jumped himself up into 3rd place and is only 51 seconds behind Chris Wall. It sounds like a lot, but if you think about it, Chris Wall, one mistake and he will meet the wall and lands up with a problem. And Paul, the Wall Fenter, is like a magnet to it. So he's going to be pushing really hard there. Christoph Pearson hoping to hang on to the back of Michael Castro at the moment, who is all over the back of Nico Lawrence, looking to go and give him a pint or two. Goes around the outside. Very, very close though. That is where you start venturing into track limits. As we see, Darius is now into the pits. So Darius is hoping that he can just get that little bit more of a stop. Remember, 15 seconds. It's 45 seconds. He is stopped in the box. Minimum. In the last 22 minutes of the race. Not ideal circumstances for him. He's going to have to try and gain a little bit of time. Chris Wall also pulling into the pits as well. Darius has served his time and now is trying to get the pit stop done and dusted. Chris Wall hoping that he has opened up just enough of a gap to Paul Wolfenter. Darius will have enough of a gap. He has opened up quite a bit there to these championships. But for Christoph Peterson, who is now running way down the order, he's 5th at the moment, has to get past Michael Castro as quick as he can to try and at least close up that gap, close up that distance, because Mohamed Musa, running in 3rd, will be gaining valuable points in the championship that can take away that diamond status as quick as he got it. So Christoph Peterson dealing with Michael Castro. Nico Lawrence trying to come back at him, doing everything he can. Darius leaving pit lane, so he's able to rejoin the fight. Chris Wall still stopped, and Paul Fenter now goes and usurps Chris Wall, gets into 2nd place. Chris Wall now down the order, and it does look like a retirement from Terence Ferreira, unfortunately, will take him out of the race. From running in 14th, that Mustang, not a happy camper. The driver instead making the decision with the team, unfortunately so, to go and retire the car after sticking it out thus far. Not ideal circumstances, not what we like to see, but unfortunately, bitter call had to be made by the driver and team of just too much mechanical problems with that car. Christoph Peterson getting a terrible drive as he tries to get ahead of Michael Castro, and he does get ahead of Michael Castro, but does bottle him up on the exit there. So not ideal circumstances, but now the little Honda has just gotten past Michael, who is now chomping at the bit to reclaim the position. Remember, they are fighting it out for class position. This is valuable points for the championship, and Michael, who is really looking to lean on the throttle though for round 3, needs to make a plan here. He scored 12 points at Indianapolis, nothing at Barcelona. He is currently sitting behind championship leader in the Diamond class, who has so far won Indianapolis and won Barcelona, hence 45 seconds success penalty was added to him that he had to do during the pit stop. So not ideal circumstances happening at this point, but the drivers having to cope with the situations at hand. 19 minutes left of the pit window. Everyone served their pit stop, so 19 minutes and 55 seconds of the race. Lucas getting a little bit out of shape though, did have a yellow flag kick up for him. And let's go back on the number 47 car as he runs out wide, touch of the grass, nothing too bad there. Tries to bring the car back, the tail end already looking unsettled on entry. Does try and bring it back a little bit, understeering out, gets a monster tank slapper, and oh, major impact into the wall. That is going to hurt, and unfortunately straight line and cornering is going to be the first ones to start feeling it. So Lucas will suddenly drop into the clutches of Sean Skitter, who served a 5-second success penalty. Remember, that was earlier on in the race. He went for that a little bit midway point, get into the pits, get the car sorted out, and get out once again. He's currently lying in 12th, in 10th position. Not ideal for him, but he's going to try and dial it up from here. Chris Wall closing up on Mohamed Musa just ahead of him, and Chris Wall will be relaying information back to Paul, saying, hey bud, this is where he is on track. This is what you need to do. Christoph Peterson running in 7th. Can he get the gain? Now for Nico Lawrence, he doesn't have to fight this. He does see Christoph coming by. He goes and maintains his position. Sees that Christoph is not a class fighter. So he's going to say, all right, you know my class. I have no problem with you. But on the other hand, Michael and I have got a bit of history here. And since it's raining, since it's Watkins Glen, and this little Porsche wants to really get by me, he's going to have to work hard for it. So he's going to let the championship leader go, but he's going to lean into Michael quite a bit here. These two are having a great time between one another. And Nico, who's running in a different class, he's running in Platinum, remember, versus the diamond of Michael Castro is really leading into him. So getting a bit unstable on the throttle. The rear starting to snap out. Does move across to the right-hand side to try and defend. Slowly brings it back to the middle of the circuit. Suddenly Michael trying to go around the outside. Got to go for the cutback though. Has that compromised Lucas enough, as he did move quite a bit over the nose of Michael Castro. Goes to the middle of the track though, defends. Michael trying to come back at him. Nico holding a very defensive line. Just straighten out a little bit just to keep it all in order. And suddenly Michael getting very uptight on the battle. Oh, very close. Nearly a nudge between the two. And Michael getting unsteady as he had to come off the gas quite a bit. The rear starting to liven up underneath him. Lift off, oversteer being an inherent Porsche problem. And that is what Nico's going to purely rely on at this moment to try and keep ahead of Michael Castro, who can see absolutely nothing, as you can see on the screen, going and having all that mist kicking up at him, going and bringing the car back, really fighting it through turn one. Now heading into the S's, you can see how there's nothing. Slight feather on the throttle, in fourth, go up into fifth, waits quite a bit there as he just goes and skates along the wall, tries to bring it back once again, the rear snapping out into the wall again. Unfortunately, pushing way too hard, aquaplaying over the puddles, and that is dropping him down the order. So it's a little bit of mistakes starting to creep in, frustration starting to be a big problem for him on the way through. So with 16 minutes and 26 seconds left, let's go through the running order, as it's Darius out in first place with a 488 Evo Ferrari, with Paul Fenter currently in second place. Who would have knew Paul Fenter to try and get that little bit of momentum? Mahath Musa running in third, Chris Wall running in fourth, Martin Spritzer, who is running in fifth place. Sixth place, Christoph Peterson with 45 seconds. Let me remind you, 45 seconds success balance, keep ahead of Nico Lawrence and Martin Castro all over the back of one another. Michael very close onto the back of him, so Michael tries to get that little bit of momentum, just losing out under braking. Then we've got Lucas Collab in 9th, 10th place Sean Skitter, Dave Young, Christian Figler, and Thomas Mutton, who is just having a great time out there as Michael Castro tries to gain a little bit of time. Big gains though. Let's go through who scored the most points at the moment, because it does present to be a very interesting one. Paul Fenter up 6 positions from where he started. He started in 8th place, he's now into 2nd. Then we have got a bit of a tie that's going on for the second of those. Chris Wall started in 9th. He's up 5 positions. He's in 4th place currently. And the likes of Dave Young up 5 positions. Started in 16th. He is now lying in 11th. So he has gained that little bit of time on the way through. Going through those that have had major losses, down 5. Michael Castro along with Sean Skitter down 5. Christoph Peterson, despite having 45 seconds added onto his time, started in 2nd, down 4 positions. He is currently in 6th place. Darius, who had 15 seconds added to his time, is still running in 1st by opening up just enough of a gap. So he has done just enough with 15 seconds to go for it. Success for round 3 means a penalty for round 4, as we do see Michael getting all out of shape there, bouncing over the curbs, trying to bring the car back, really having it snap out underneath him, having to really think what needs to be done here. How is he going to bring this car back? What needs to be the ultimate gain or loss here? How are you going to get that little bit more momentum? Trying to carry a lot of the braking in, sliding the car in, gets on the throttle. He's lost out a lot to Nico, and I think he needs to just try and bring the car back towards himself. Instead of focusing on the attack, he needs to look at what he needs to do to carry the momentum at the moment. What does he need to do to balance that Porsche back and get the balance of the Porsche back under control? Getting too aggressive is getting it really lightening up as he dives for the nose of Nico Lawrence before he gets it chopped off. So Nico Lawrence running a little bit wider, a little bit more balance in the Mercedes over the Porsche, but not quick. I do want to point this out. Definitely not quick between the two of them. Michael's able to go and break a 1 second deficit. Now coming out of the final corner is going to try and line himself up. Going to look to go side by side. He is in the slipstream, pulling himself along, really looking towards the inside line. He second guesses it though, lifts off, lets the car come underneath him, dives for the inside line a little bit. No, actually chooses rather to stick it through. Maybe worried about the S's, maybe knowing that the Porsche is a little bit upset based on the last lap. Tries to bring it through, sliding it right to the fringe of the circuit. This time, though, does do a quick snap to the left to just try and pull the car away from the Onco barrier itself. And you can see really just try and keep in that toe, following that slipstream all the way through. Not wanting to lose out too much time here, bouncing over the curbs, having to really reel it back. Nico is just playing this nicely at the moment. He is focusing on his charge, where he needs to make up that little bit of time and gain at the moment. But it's turning into a great race between these two. They're absolutely slugging it out. Yet again, not a fight for first place. Now, we've seen a lot of great mid-pack battles, and that is a testament to the drivers who have been practicing quite a bit. Now, here at ERA, we do have training days that we go and teach the drivers what to do, how to handle the conditions, and they are getting taught by our very same pro class drivers, and I can say some of the best in the world, going and teaching them how to handle the car, how to focus on setup, the fundamentals and the core fundamentals that are needed for those that are racing. Whether you're a long-term racer, you have done quite a bit, you've come from one sim to another, there's always room to grow and improve. Or for a person like myself, absolutely no skill in it at all, you trying your hand for the very first time here at Evolution Racing Academy is definitely where you want to be to learn how to get the valuable pace. We do have 2 servers running. This is server 1, which has our top tier, our diamond and platinum drivers fighting it out. We do have a second server that is running that allows people to learn a bit more, get valuable time, and really move their way up through the order. Christoph Peterson, though, not learning that the wall is a little bit harder than the car, skates along the side of it. He's going after Martin Spritzer as quick as possible. He's going to try and go for the inside line through the inner loop, having to brake extremely hard. Not ideal circumstances there, but he is just trying to bring that car back. He tried taking a late lunge, wasn't going to work, door closed on him. Very ambitious, that's all I could say for Christoph Peterson. Let's actually go back a little bit and let's take a look at the helmet, because you can see that spray kicking up from Martin's Lamborghini just ahead of him. That Lamborghini Huracan Evo 2 is really just within arm's reach, but just not close enough to make that little bit onto the brakes. And it does compromise his entrance and exit out of the corner into the inner loop. So you had to just back it off a little bit too much there. Unfortunately, that does impact it quite a bit. As we finish up with our replay, we do get a bit of a side-by-side as Christoph lines himself up on the inside. Second time lucky, gets the pass done and dusted. He's up into 5th position. Martin's going to try and keep as much pressure onto the back of him and maybe go for a pass once again. Once again, I do want to reiterate class positioning. So far, Martin's in 2nd for the Platinum class, so there's no reason to really push against the likes of Christoph Peterson. He is holding enough because Nico Lawrence, who's running in 3rd in class, has got Michael Castro all over the back of him, and they are battling it out. We do see the Mustang of Thomas. Oh man, trying to bring that car back. He is having a nightmare, but respect to the driver, and especially major respect to Thomas Morton, who really is having a nightmare of a night, but is showing the fundamentals that here at the ERA we do talk about, we do reiterate, and we do stress quite a bit, even when the circumstances are at its worst. And even though our pro drivers do need to take a page out of the book as well, sometimes a bit of that humble pie does get shared amongst ERA drivers. Thomas is really getting to show that, and it's one I do want to highlight. As a driver that has had, well, damage to his car, he's written the thing off, he's spun multiple times here at Watkins Glen in the rain, the treacherous conditions. He is really having a night that you would just take the steering off and walk away, go and have yourself a hot chocolate and enjoy the rest of the show. You know, go and put the show on in the background and watch your drivers, support the drivers, but not wanting to climb in the rig. But he is still going. And that's one thing that I can stress to any new driver. You want to just keep going regardless of it all. You want to push yourself that little bit more towards the end of the race. You don't want to get lost in the sauce. You don't want to give up and lose out that time. Nico Lawrence and Michael Castro, do want to point out these two drivers because it's something we do need to lean on. Close but fair racing. No major dives, no aggressive, really try and force a driver out of the way, but instead some clean, hard racing between the two, and especially they have been going at this for nearly 30 minutes, folks, that these two have been over each other, tripping over a nose and tail, but yet not a single contact, despite being 0.3 of a second for majority of the laps. These two in a front engine Mercedes AMG Evo and a Porsche 992 GT3R in the wet that you can't see a darn thing past your nose, and you can't hit the brakes too late or too early, otherwise you'll end up with a problem where it is all about the fine car control. These two, despite different classes, hammering it on. So Nico and Michael, absolutely push it, guys. You're doing a phenomenal job out there. Let's see how this is going to go, though. It's going to be very, very close as Michael is all over the back of Nico, but just not having it. He's just needing to find that something, that special something that lays way down in the gut to go for that pass. But every time he looks at it, the Porsche getting very upset and very unsettled. It just goes off balance. Nico, who is going and really leaning on him, going and ensuring he's locking down those lines, early braking now, just to try and kill off the drive of Michael, who had to dab the brakes a little bit more than he planned there. That backs him off. This is going and helping Martin Spritzer, might I add. Martin, who is lying in 6th place, who is second in his class, has got Nico not worrying about his front windscreen and not worrying about the green Lamborghini ahead of him. He's worrying about the Porsche all over the back of him. Looking left, looking right, dives up the inside. Couldn't quite get it hooked in. Gonna have to wait it out. Michael needs to just go fast if he wants to go past Nico Lawrence, who is not backing down of it. The BFW Racing is really fighting it out and being that BFG in the case of Michael Lawrence's army at this point. The onslaught that is trying to go on behind him, Nico is soaking up that pressure, excuse the joke, but is really having a ton of fun out there, forcing the Porsche to really battle it out. Michael, who gets tremendous pace into turn 1 through the S's, is not the strongest, and he knows this. Nico's just keeping that momentum, keeping it all switched in and going as we head into the last 5 minutes of the race. And let's go through our running pack order. It is Darius out in first place, 6.4 seconds ahead of Paul Fenter. Mahath Musa running in third, Chris Wall in fourth. 5th place, Christoph Peterson, Martin Spritzer. Running in 6th, Nico Lawrence, Michael Castro, Lucas Kolb, along with Dave Young, Sean Skitter, Christian Fingler, and Thomas Mottard. In my opinion, well done, dude. Keep up the hard work, but I have to say, drivers of the day, and I say drivers, I talk about in plural, I talk about many, because likes of Michael and Lawrence have been all over the back of one another, and they have kept it going. Michael, unfortunately, losing out a bit of time there, tried going for a pass, got himself stuck on the outside, lost the momentum, 1.3 seconds behind, but what can he do as Nico starts to accelerate away from him? Nico, as we jump on board the back of this Mercedes, onlooking to see the likes of Michael just hanging in the wings at the moment, trying to carry that little bit more momentum. Nico having a phenomenal drive in and out of the corners. We'll have to worry about it because Michael has caught up. He has broken that 1.2 second deficit in 3 corners and now is laying on the pressure. Little bit of a slide on the exit through the second last corner. Nails it for the apex on the right-hand side. Tri-Sky wide, you can see frantically fighting, soaring away at the wheel, trying to keep this car in check, and is just battling it through at the moment. Michael hoping that he can just get that momentum back. 1 second, runs out very wide though, Got to be careful with that. Track limits is a warning that will be handed out 3 times before drive-through penalty. And with 3 minutes to go, this is not ideal for him. He's got to either close up that gap, get the pass done, or he needs to just breathe at this point and hold position, hold station if necessary. He's got to look at this long term here. He's 1 second behind, but these are race drivers. These are sim racers willing to wear their heart on their sleeves and give it everything they got. Michael losing out that 1.3 second deficit to Nico Lawrence, who's going and stretching the gap a little bit further. He's dialed it up a bit. Taking a look at the lap time, so far, Nico Lawrence on that last lap has actually beaten his personal best, a 1:57.760 at race pace. So he has really brought down the hammer there, and he's now trying to extend that gap. He's saying, listen, I am racing in the Platinum class. Let me show you why I am currently fighting for 3rd in class here at Watkins Glen for round 3. I'm going to stretch the legs a little bit of my Mercedes. I'm going to break away from you who are racing in Diamond class. I don't want to be around you guys. You in your own little battle here. And quite frankly, I'm done. I put the hammer down. Michael's still going and chomping at the heels here. He really wants to prove. He wants to get into that 7th position. He doesn't want to lose out. 1 minute and 45 seconds to go. And with roughly 2 minutes a lap being done, I do think Darius will get one more lap in before the end of the race. So he will be able to get one more lap. And that means that the entirety of the grid will go 1 extra lap. Now this is where the question comes in. How much have you put fuel in? Let's talk about another battle going on here. Paul Fenter has cut down the gap to 7 seconds behind Darius. So Paul has really dialed it up in the Aston Martin to try and break away. But he does know Mahath Musa, who's running 2nd in the championship, now lying in 3rd. If Mahath Musa gets a past him, that is going to hurt Christoph Peterson, who is so far running 4th in class. As we do hear Jim shouting on the radio, pit window is now closed. You heard it right. Pit window is now closed, so if you haven't pitted, you go and take the impact. But every single one of our drivers have got the pit stop done and dusted. So Darius out in 1st, Paul Fenter in 2nd, Mahath Musa in 3rd, 4th place Chris Wall, Christoph Peterson, Michael Spritzer, Nico Lawrence, Michael Castro, Lucas Cullip, Dave Young, Sean Skitter, Christian Fingler, along with Thomas Morton, who is making his way around. Thomas really trying to keep it all together. Suddenly takes a look at his mirrors and sees the likes of Martin on the back of him. Martin, a quick flash on the lights there, saying, listen, buddy, you really got to get going. As we do here, our leader is now on the final lap. So Darius is on his final lap. He has gone past turn 1 and now making his way up through the S's. Has not put a foot wrong in this race, and he's hoping to continue that momentum. The number 51 Ferrari 488 Evo has done enough at the moment to hang it in. Michael Castro breaking that 1.5 second deficit to 1.3, getting down to 1 second. Massive tank slapper on the way through. Brings it back though. If we remember back to lap 1, he landed up rotating that Porsche right there and had to wait out for the field. So not ideal circumstances as he does try and close up. Nico carrying a lot of momentum, unfortunately not into turn 1. Michael has got this. He's got one more lap to get it done. Dave Young all over the back of Lucas Cullip will also be told one last lap. That's all that you guys have got to play with here. Can you get it done with only a couple of corners to break it in to really move your way up through the order? And we are really moments away from going and saying well done to a driver that will be scoring not only first place here for round 3, but will be extending his championship lead. 1 at Indianapolis, 1 at Barcelona, and looking to make it another win. 3 wins in a row here at Watkins Glen for round 3 of the ERA Sunday Championship Season 11. And Darius has done a phenomenal job at the moment. And gotta say, he's been the first person that said, I've actually turned his surname into a meme. Well, you're gonna be a meme again, but this time with a checkered flag in front of you. Darius taking first place. Second going to Paul Fenter and scoring first in his class. Mahayath Musa taking third and second in his class. Chris Wall will be finishing up right behind him, but he has got likes of Christoph Peterson trying to make up some time. Is Christoph Peterson going to be able to make up a bit of time to Chris Wall? Nope. And he's going to come across the line. Chris Wall finishing in fourth. Fifth going to Christoph Peterson. And Martin Spitzer keeping an eye. Nico Lawrence battling out Michael Castro. One corner to go. Can Michael carry the momentum through? Gets on the power early. Tries to give it everything she's got. The Porsche hanging on to the back. 0.3 of a second as they come across the line. Nico Lawrence getting ahead on Michael with 0.3 of a second between them. Lucas Collab, though, got Dave Young on the back of him. 0.8 of a second. Dave Young trying to bring it back. Closing up in time. Can he get a little bit closer? Unfortunately not, dropping back by a second. Lucas Collab getting 9th, 10th place Dave Young. Sean Skitter getting 11th position. And then 12th going to Christian, who slides it out in the final corner. Absolutely mint, my friend. That is how you do it. Great, great stuff. Wow. That being said, whoo boy, what a proper run on the way through. Gotta say, some exciting times there, some exciting racing, but it all came down to the final moments of the race. Oh boy, hopefully you guys have had a great evening here tonight, and wow, our server 1 really showing off some phenomenal racing. Gotta say though, some really great tip of the hat moments, 2 drivers, some great side-by-side moments, but also some perseverance through some of the worst of races. Not an easy time out there at all. But we will be going and having a chat to those very same drivers that will come and give us a bit of an insight to the race, a bit of insight to how it all worked out for them, who managed to get the climbs, who managed to drop down a little bit, what was the ideas of the race, all of it coming into what needs to be done. So, I mean, phenomenal stuff. But we're going to be having a chat to a couple of these drivers. Let's take a look back at some of the highlights as Darius taking the win for tonight for not only the Platinum, but has done a great job to take the overall win nonetheless. And we're going to bring up, well, I see we got 3 drivers at the moment, so let's bring them up in roughly the order. Starting off with Chris, and he started with 45 seconds added to him. So let's bring Chris up to the floor and have a chat to him after his 45 seconds. Chris, welcome to the commentary box. I'm sure you're glad to be out of the rain because you must be soaked. I saw on the way here you've left a whole trail on the ground. We need to mop up the floors after that.
Yeah, I also feel soaked, but in a different way. Yeah, the reason why I'm here is that the 45 seconds were a mistake. That was the automatic penalty system having a bit of an error. So I will get 30 seconds deducted from my race time, which means I technically was a bit further ahead than I finished. But it was a super fun race, and congrats to my both teammates, Darius and Paul, for getting the podium positions and the platinum win. But I let Darius tell that by himself. There will be changes, I think.
Well, I've got to point out here. So, despite the 45 seconds, and I know if it's a bit of mistake that's added on, fair enough, but you still came 5th. Theoretically, you give 45 seconds to any driver, and they would immediately have their heart in their boots quite quickly. But you took the challenge and managed to gain up quite a bit of time. I mean, up into 5th place is a huge climb because you are only 3 positions down on where you started. You started in 2nd. I mean, that is just... I mean, what was going through your head? I'm sure there wasn't a moment that you were even breathing at some points of this track.
I mean, it surely motivated me even more that this error happened, and I had it a bit harder. But also you have to look at the conditions. I'm probably in the best car in the wet in the game, which gives me a tiny bit of an advantage over other cars. And on the other hand, only I think I would say one of the guys I had to overtake actually raced me for a bit. So the most difficult thing by cutting through the field was probably the spray and the dirty air. So I think if more guys decided to race me, then I maybe wouldn't have ended up P5, or at least would have had it more difficult.
Well, it's definitely helped you out. Now, you did lose out a little bit to Mahath Musa, but you did have a Sean Skitter who was way back in the order. Craig Hewlett was not racing. Thomas, unfortunately, had a nightmare of a race. So you had a couple of your championship fighters split all amongst around. So how are you feeling heading into round 4 now that you're going to have a little bit more of a challenge? Mahath Musa, who did have one drop round at Barcelona, suddenly now scored a bit of valuable points towards you in the championship, and you do have that drop round that's lurking around. I'm sure this will be that drop round for you, but suddenly the championship becoming a little bit more alive in the diamond class.
Yeah, of course, and also Muaf did a great race too. Like, the BMW is not fun to drive in these conditions, and he still had massive pace, so that was an achievement in itself. And yeah, this is how I expected it to be. Like, we have so many strong drivers here, and the overall quantity of drivers in the server is not big at the moment, but I think the quality is pretty high at the top end, and I think we will have an exciting championship fight in the next rounds also, because we will get one more contestant in Diamond eventually.
Well, that's it. And, well, in all being said, you came in 5th place. Generally, we go and say the honours are to 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, but I think you deserved the battle here today, and one of the awards for Driver of the Day, despite everything. Chris, it's your turn to address all our petrol heads out there and all our partners that are watching with intent here at Evolution Racing Academy for round 3 of the Sunday Championship Season 11.
Yeah, thank you to everyone who watched the stream or is still watching, and thanks to my team as always. It was a fun race. It was a fun banter during the race, and yeah, I'm looking forward to the rest of the season. And I would say now my 2 teammates have their words.
Absolutely awesome stuff. Chris, thank you very much. It was great to have a chat to you, and I look forward to chatting to you next week. Moving on to our next driver, who came 2nd, charged his way up through the order, and I've got to say is a driver that is, well, he's turned the page. Let's bring up Paul the Wall Fenter to come and have a chat to us. Paul, welcome to the commentary box. And from a personal perspective, well done. It looks like a new chapter in your sim racing career has started this week. How it's been from a little bit on the low side, suddenly the pace is getting better and better. Your times are becoming more consistent. Your driving style has completely changed, and you scored 2nd place over your teammates, and not too far ahead was Darius.
How's it, Steven? Yeah, lekker, man. I think it's because I painted the car yellow.
There we go.
I mean, just going back to my stupid roots of being in a yellow car, and all of a sudden the car goes quicker, the driver feels quicker, and 3 great races after each other, Thursday, yesterday, and then tonight. So yeah, I was looking forward to tonight's race. I looked like I had a bit of decent pace. Hopefully I was hoping to try and be at least 30 seconds ahead of Chris for the time they'll remove from his name, but everyone in the team said we weren't changing tires, and sneakily he goes and changes tires to because of the time that he got that he got errored on. and that helped him quite a bit because the wets fell off quite severely at the halfway mark. But man, that was a blast. I enjoyed that thoroughly. And yeah, like I say, I don't know. I guess they normally say, change is as good as a holiday. Well, a change is as good as finding your speed and your mojo again. So yeah, I guess that's where we're at the moment.
Well, the conditions. Let's talk about this because I saw you busy going and trying to wring out your race overalls at the moment that I think is weighing an extra 14 kilograms with soaking up so much water. How was it out there going and trying to keep as close as you can to some of your competitors? Because you had to try and battle your way around some people that were fighting tooth and nail, and that spray wasn't going anywhere.
Yeah, no, look, I think the track consistently was maybe like a click or two just below being actually flooded. So it was horrendous, but at the same time, us LNR guys, I don't know, we're probably not well upstairs because we absolutely love when it's chaos settings like that, where it's just absolutely insane sanity, craziness, to race and that. We just love that. So I absolutely thoroughly enjoyed that. It's a challenging yet fun way to race. So yeah, not every week, but yeah, that definitely was a highlight on the calendar for me.
Well, it did throw a spanner in, but let's talk about your championship now. You were 8th in the championship. Indianapolis was a bit of a throw-around run for you. Round 2, you scored 10 points. Now you're maximizing the points, going and winning your class for Diamond. How are you feeling heading into round 4 next week?
Yeah, look, I always knew this championship, the first 2 rounds is probably my weakest rounds, which is Indian and damn, I don't even know where we were because it was 2 weeks ago. But yeah, round 1 and round 2 is not my greatest tracks to race at. And then the last race, which I think is at Donington, which I believe, depending if it rains, it'll be a good race. If it doesn't rain, I'll struggle. So to me, Watkins, Spa, Silverstone, and Hungaroring that's coming up, those I feel positive to put in some decent results. So yeah, so let's see if someone can catch that pesky Honda and maybe slow it down a bit. So yeah, because that's the only way we're going to try and catch him. I might have to speak to Musa so that we can secretly double team that VTEC to get it to slow down.
For a Musa send, one would say. Well, Paul, 2nd place overall, 1st in class. What would you like to say to all our amazing petrol heads watching now and in the future out there in the virtual grandstands, and also our amazing partners here at ERA?
And just thanks to everyone at ERA that actually makes this possible. For us hosting our own league and stuff, we know the efforts that goes into it. So yeah, thanks to Fengler and his supporting crew in the background and the guys that support the series financially to pay for the streaming and make all of this possible. Just thanks to everyone, and then yeah, thanks to the drivers, because once again, if there's no drivers, there's no racing. So yeah, just thanks to everyone, and have fun, and see you guys at the next one next weekend.
That's it. Thank you, Paul Fenter. Next up, let's bring in the one and only who's been on rails this entire season. 1st overall in 3 rounds. He's been going and running 1st in class. He's been fighting it out for the overall victory as well. Let's bring up Darius to the floor. And Darius, once again, a massive well done. A clean sweep at the sharp end of the field. Chris was unfortunately going and dropping down the order, but it didn't make it any easier for you because the conditions, looked rather treacherous, and you're in the older Ferrari. You're not in the 296, you're in the 488 Evo, which is not known to behave well in the rain.
Thanks, Stephen. But I like to throw you 2 curveballs. The first curveball is, who's ever told you that the 488 is not good in the wet doesn't know their shit. The 488 is really, really good in the wet. It's like only subpar to the Honda. The 488 is an absolute machine in the wet. if you turn down the TC and you can get the car to rotate, it's a gem in the wet. You've got all the traction you need, you've got all the downforce you need, and that's probably the most thing that saved me for this race. And the other curveball I'd like to throw at you, I might be the winner in Platinum, but not after this race, because I returned from the Diamond class because my last season was an absolute shitter. And I'm moving myself back up again because this at this point is just not worth for the Platinum drivers to compete. So I'll be joining the Diamond bunch.
Oh boy.
With this race, so all the results will be recalculated to the point where I would be driving if I was driving in the Diamond class. So Mr. Peterson, with his changing tire strategy, managed to win the race by 2.1 seconds.
Okay, so you're telling me you pulled the hand grenade on yourself, and now you're making the championship liven up. Oh boy. Okay, right. Well, you heard it here first. This was a proper hand grenade on all of us. But Darius, I mean, okay, first of all, well done on the curveballs. And, well, I was told by the 488 with my own teammate. So, yeah, I'm definitely going to have words with him because I picked the Porsche out of all things due to his advice. Lots of discussions need to be had when we trip back to South Africa. But take us through the race and how close the fight was. Just trying to keep everything in order, thinking about the long-term strategy. Was there a concern of the conditions might become unviable to an extent in terms of battling around, or do you think it was just in so much open air that you would be okay?
It's not as much of an issue with the battling because me personally, I like rain driving, so I'm kind of used to it. But the spray was getting quite bad, and I thought to myself, because Christoph's my long-time standing endurance teammate, I thought to myself, I'm not gonna be too aggressive on this one and let him have the run if he gets the run. Apparently, that was a stupid idea in the end, but basically it was just follow behind, try to close the gap, and as soon as I got into the groove, I kind of got to closing the gap. Then he had to pit, had this error penalty served to him, and I didn't expect him to take tires because nobody would usually take tires, but now in the future I'm thinking to myself, I might as well take tires in the rain if I lose a second per lap.
Alright,
because that's what it felt like.
So you're telling me that the next time you're doing a long endurance race, you're going to leave a couple of Tic Tacs in the seat for your teammate, just as a thank you for not mentioning about the tire strat?
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
Something like that.
Fair enough. We'll take that. Well, for tonight, you got overall victory. From the stream, as he said, there will be a couple of workout in the points. The mathematicians will go and try and boggle their minds and work things out with A's and B's, and well, anything that comes out with math and English meeting each other, and you want to tell the English teacher, I'm sick and tired of looking for your X, just get over it. That's all going to be put in the background, but you won here tonight. You got overall victory. You've been doing well all season long. Do you have anything to say to all the amazing petrol heads out there, out in the virtual grandstands, and all our amazing partners joining us here at ERA for Season 11?
If you want to drive a Ferrari, drive the proper one and not the 296 hypercar.
I have to
drive
agree
the old
with that.
one. It will teach you a lot of stuff. It's hard to get the pace around, but damn, it's a lovely car.
It also looks a million times better. It was designed by an Italian.
Sounds a lot better.
Yes, it was designed by the Italians. It wasn't designed by a computer, and doesn't look like it got dropped on a step with the rear. I have to agree with that one. It's the same as the BMW. Drive the M6, not the M4, because the M4 looks like it needs to visit a dentist. Fair enough. Darius, thank you so much for joining us. Well done once again, and we look forward to seeing how the championship develops because, well, you dropped the hand grenade now. Now you put yourself in the fight with the likes of Peterson, and, well, don't count out the other drivers there because we just saw Paul Fenter pull a rabbit out of the hat as well.
Definitely. Thanks for having me, Stephen. Great job as always. See you in a bit.
See you in a bit. Wow, Darius going and enjoying and having a party with all of the mates down in the grandstands. Well, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, that brings us to the end of tonight's broadcast. Once again, we'd like to say a massive shout out to you all. A big shout out to our partners, IMB Racewear. If you're looking for anything sim related, boots, gloves, shirts, they've got it all and got some of the best, highest quality that you can go. Big thank you to HSR Motorsport, our long-term partners here at ERA. And they are going and helping us. DGSR going and being a part of ERA as well. Been a long-term partner. Glad to have them on board and going and supporting all our drivers, supporting our tutorials and being part of it. AssettoHosting.com once again for the amazing servers, making sure that we can have the racing day in and day out here at ERA. Boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome and thank you once again for joining us. We look forward to seeing you guys in the future. Heading into next week, though, we will be going out and having a bit of fun in a little bit of challenging conditions as we head over to Spa. But this time, we're going through a little bit of a sun up or sundown. Either way, the sun's going to be in your eyes at Spa Francorchamps. So get ready to see some madness and make sure you bring those sunglasses as well because it is going to be blinding out there and the championship is heating up as we will be moving on to round 4 of our 7-round championship. My name is Stephen Koenig from the THT Productions booth and we'll see you next time right here at Evolution Racing Academy. And like always, a good morning, good afternoon, good evening and good night everybody.